Thank you. You may be seated. So we invite you to continue enjoying this special compilation that was done by the Most Honorable Edward Seaga.
Go to sleep, I see you in my dream.
Better get ready, come to rock steady. Yeah. You got to do this new dance. Hope you are ready. You got to do it just like Uncle Freddy. If you don't know it, just shake your head, rock your body line, shake your shoulders, everything in time, then sing. Oh, 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 oh. You got to shake your shoulders. Better get ready just to do rock steady. Yeah. You've got to do this new dance just like Freddy. You've got to do it just like Uncle Freddy. If you don't know it, shake your head, rock your body now, shake your shoulders, everything in time, then sing. Oh, 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 oh. You got to shake your shoulders. Know you're ready. Let's do rock steady. Yeah. You've got to do this new dance. Now that you're ready. You've got to do it just like Uncle Freddy. Now that you know it, shake your head, rock your body now. Shake
Ladies
your
and gentlemen,
shoulders,
thank you
everything is
very
fine.
much
Now sing.
for your patience. The Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister, and the Most Honorable Mrs. Juliet Holness. Senator Sophia Fraser-Binns, representing Dr. Peter Phillips, Leader of the Opposition. The Honorable Olivia Grange, Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport. The Honorable Desmond McKenzie, Minister of Local Government and Community Development and Member of Parliament for West Kingston. The Honorable Robert Montague, Minister of Transport and Mining and Chairman of the Jamaica Labour Party. The Honorable Lester Michael Henry, Minister without portfolio in the Office of the Prime Minister and Chairman of the Premier League Clubs Association. Other members of the Cabinet. The Honorable Pernell Charles, Speaker of the House of Representatives. Mr. Christopher Seaga, son of the Most Honorable Edward Seaga. The Honorable Bishop Dr. Harold Blair, President and founder of the Deliverance Evangelistic Association, Incorporated. Mr. Christopher Bovell, Chairman of the Board of the Edward Seaga Research Institute. Mrs. Anne-Marie Spence Heron, President of the Tivoli Gardens Football Club. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, good afternoon and welcome to this special floral tribute to the Most Honorable Edward Seaga. A few years ago, when I was a TV student, I was working on a documentary on Donald Sangster, as Prime Minister #2. Edward Seaga had recently been appointed the Distinguished Fellow at the University of the West Indies, Mona. So I set an appointment to go discuss the documentary with him and to ask him to participate. He was most accommodating and agreed to an interview on camera. When you see him from afar, he seems bigger than life, but up close, he's willing to even help TV students complete the documentaries, in between everything else that he has to do. But one thing that stood out from that interview for me was a question of what does the country owe people, such as Sangster, who served and are no longer on the front line? His response was classic Seaga. Well, nothing, he said. Your country doesn't owe you anything, but you owe your country everything. You have a duty to help build your country, he said. And that, I think, captures his motivation, his sense of duty to his country. Ladies and gentlemen, I now invite the Honorable Bishop Dr. Harold Blair, the President and founder of the Deliverance Evangelistic Association, to lead us in prayers.
Good afternoon, everyone. Shall we bow our heads and hearts in prayer? O God eternal, we have come this afternoon to continue to celebrate one you gave to us. And we thank you for the blessings you placed upon him, that indeed he was blessed with longevity, that we could have been touched by his life. We recognize his selfishness. He gave service above self as he labored in this nation, with unslacking devotion to that which is committed to his trust. We recognize this afternoon his service to our country, which has benefited greatly. We have seen how he has spent sleepless nights so that we could have a brighter day. We recognize his sacrifice, for indeed he sacrificed the joys of financial rewards, the legacy of being always with his family and his friends, to suffer abuse even among his political competitors. Today, he is celebrated in this floral tribute. May we be reminded that heaven is blessed by the aroma that arises from this display. Bless every effort here this afternoon, we pray. In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Bishop. I now invite the Honorable Olivia Grange, Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, to extend welcome and make opening remarks.
The Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister, and the Most Honorable Mrs. Juliet Holness, Senator Sophia Fraser-Binns, representing Dr. Peter Phillips, Leader of the Opposition, members of the Cabinet, Honorable Pernell Charles, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mr. Christopher Seaga, son of the Most Honorable Edward Seaga, Councillor Winston Ennis, Deputy Mayor, representing His Worship the Mayor, Senator Councillor Delroy Williams, Mayor of Kingston and St. Andrew, Honorable Bishop Dr. Harold Blair, thank you for prayers, Mr. Christopher Bevel, Board Chair, Edward Seaga Research Institute, other members of Mr. Seaga's family, officers of the Jamaica Labour Party, family, and friends. Good afternoon. I stand here today with a heavy heart because the vacuum that was created in my soul 1 year ago to the day still remains. It is an unfillable void created by the passing of the late former Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Edward Phillips George Seaga, my mentor, my teacher and friend, who departed life on May 28, 2019. When I started this program of honoring our late former Prime Ministers on the anniversary of their births, I had those who had gone long before in mind. Little did I know that a few years later, I would be here to participate in the ceremony of one who taught me so much, made me who I am, and one whose contributions to Jamaica's development created the backbone of the modern economy that we now so skillfully navigate and operate. Edward Seaga was a man of unique qualities. He did nothing in an ordinary way. He is the only person resting in this National Heroes Park who has the same birth and departure date. Today, we pay tribute to a man who gave selflessly to the Jamaican nation, a man who invested heavily in the people and institutions of this country, a man who saw Jamaica's potential and was determined to make very bold steps in establishing the framework on which ensuing generations will be able to build out the kind of society he envisioned for all Jamaicans. A man who was determined to tear down the wall between the haves and the have-nots and secure a better Jamaica for all. Honorable Prime Minister, Mrs. Holness, ladies and gentlemen, as we celebrate the 90th anniversary of the birth of Mr. Eddie and observe the first year of his passing, I invite you to reflect on the tremendous impact that his life made on the economic and socio-political transformation of Jamaica, from a tiny dot into one of the most respected nations of the world. Mr. Seaga said on his 88th birthday, to those of us who celebrated with him, he said, "I don't want a bashment until my 90th. Today, it's his 90th. And Prime Minister, I know we have to observe the protocol that has been established. So what we have attempted to do today, Prime Minister, is to keep our social distance. But I could not manage to keep the numbers at 10. But the social distance is being observed, sir. And I thank you for making this an exemption. Just today, our country and Prime Minister co-hosted the United Nations high-level event on financing solutions related to COVID-19. This shows the great esteem that the world has for our country and our leadership. National achievements aside, Edward Seaga's dedication to community development remains a reference principle through his yeoman service to make West Kingston and Tivoli Gardens a model of modern communal living and a cultural oasis from which has sprung so many of Jamaica's great talent. And today I especially recognize the Member of Parliament for West Kingston, Mr. Seaga's protege. There is a lot that will be proudly said about Mr. Seaga this afternoon. I thank you all for taking the time to be here with us as we pay tribute to the 5th Prime Minister of Jamaica, the Most Honorable Edward Philip George Seaga. I thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Grange. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Camilla Isaacs to perform Lionheart. Camilla is a beneficiary of the Prime Minister's Positive Jamaica Foundation.
Feel me love have lion heart, feel me have lion heart. Feel me love have lion heart. Strong and everlasting. Only for you. If we part and never meet again, though we part and never meet again, feel me love is like a king reign, strong and everlasting, only for you. If we part and never meet again, though we part and never meet again, feel me love is like a king reign, strong and everlasting, only for you. Feel me love will never done, feel me love will never done, shining like the sunshine, only for you. Feel me love will never done, feel me love will never done, shining like the sunshine, only for you. If we part and never meet again, if we part and never meet again, feel me love is like a king reign, strong and everlasting, only for you. If we part and never meet again, though we part and never meet, feel me love is like a beat, strong and everlasting, only for you. Feel me love have lion heart, feel me love have lion heart, strong and everlasting, only for you. Feel me love have lion heart, feel me love have lion heart, strong and everlasting, only for you. Strong and everlasting, only for you. Strong and everlasting, only for you.
Let's give it up, please. Camilla Isaacs. And now, ladies and gentlemen, with reflections on the life of the Most Honorable Edward Seaga, please welcome the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister.
Strange times indeed, but the symbolism of having this ceremony, it's not only to commemorate and reflect on the life of a great Jamaican, but it is also to show that life goes on, even in these difficult times, that we will find ways to adapt, we will find ways to survive, and we will find ways to continue to secure our lives and our livelihood. Thank you, Bishop Hera Blair, for your prayers. I want to especially acknowledge the Most Honorable wife, Senator Sophia Fraser-Binns, representing the Leader of the Opposition, colleagues in the Cabinet, the Honorable Pernell Charles, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Councillor Winston Ennis, representing His Worship the Mayor, Senator Councillor Delroy Williams, Mayor of Kingston and St. Andrew, Mr. Christopher Seaga, son of the Most Honorable Edward Seaga and representing the Seaga family, other distinguished ladies and gentlemen, representatives of the media, good afternoon. We have seen throughout our history men and women of valor who have led our people through the various stages of our development. Our history as a nation includes leaders of such bravery and creativity, vision, purpose, and passion who have changed the course of history. Edward Philip George Seaga was one of those outstanding and exceptional leaders whose life and work have helped to build our nation. Today, on what is the 90th anniversary of his birth and also the first anniversary of his death, and I'll share a comment I made to Minister Grange when we both went to visit him in hospital in Miami. And we had an opportunity to speak, and I held his hand, and I felt, though weak, his grip. I could still feel a strong spirit and determination to live. And it was a very sad time, and I was speaking to the family, and I withdrew for a moment, and Minister Grange and myself, we started to give our prognosis. And I said to Minister Grange, I will bet any money that Mr. Seaga is going to hold out until his birthday. Predicted it down to the day, because he is a man of great strength. And though at that time he was low, I felt something that he was going to hold out and hold on for as long as he could. And it is not just how it was in his passing. This was how he was in life, determined. Once he has set a goal, he's going to do everything in his power. And it is a quality that I have grown to admire and try to aspire to. But today is the first anniversary of his passing, and it is a sad day as we reflect on him. And I know those who know him very well are all very much saddened and are missing him more now that we are recalling him. But we don't reflect on him only in sadness or just missing him. Today we celebrate him as well. The great work and accomplishments of a great man. We pay tribute to his legacy. Mr. Seaga presided over a period of significant growth and development in Jamaica. There was no area of public life in which Mr. Seaga's impact was not felt. From the economy to social welfare and development, housing, infrastructure, health, education, tourism, communication, sports, music, culture, the arts, and many more. Having been very close to Mr. Seaga, I can truly say that his was a life well lived with passion and fierce patriotism. In the numerous ways in which he served, he gave his all. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mr. Seaga was a decisive leader. You always knew where he stood on any issue. He was never someone who would say to you, well, on one hand, and then on the other hand. You definitely knew his position on issues. He was either all in or all out. I was fortunate enough to have him as my mentor and political father, and I've learned so much from him. When I became leader of the Jamaica Labour Party in 2011, he called me to his home and he recounted to me what Sir Alexander said to him when he was rising to take over the leadership of the party. He said, Buster told him while holding his hands, Seaga, don't forget the poor. He held my hands and repeated the same thing. Andrew, don't forget the poor. And indeed, it is the handing down of the mission of the Jamaica Labour Party, that whatever we do, we must never forget the poor, working class people of this country. And that mission continues. But his quest to uplift the poor was not merely a meaningless exhortation. It is not sufficient to say we don't forget the poor and how we love the poor. That's not what he was saying, because he further went on to explain his position in one of the volumes that he wrote. He said, we set out not to destroy wealth, but to create it. Not to pull down the strong who succeed, but to pull up the weak who are trying. Not to accept ignorance as a way of life, but to abolish it. Not to tolerate injustice to man, but every man must have equal rights and justice. And that is how we ensure that we address poverty in our nation. Not to make excuses for it, not to lower standards, and not to envy people who are doing well. Some of those who have done well were once poor. While he said this in 2001, it remains as relevant today as it was then. And we are guided by this statement in how we respond to the COVID-19 pandemic and other threats to our country. Mr. Seaga demonstrated an incredible understanding of the dreams and aspirations of the Jamaican people. He did not rely on anthropological data gathered elsewhere, or on anecdotes, or what people tell him. He went into the field and lived the experience. This formed the basis of his sound and visionary thinking on matters of the development of human capital towards nation building. Mr. Seaga was more than a politician and a legislator. In fact, it could be argued that he orchestrated the birth of what we do now as Jamaican cultural industries. Mr. Seaga helped Jamaicans to see value in their own abilities, and from that experience sprung popular culture as we know it today. These days, we have Jamaican artists touring all corners of the world, and now virtually. But few would know that it was the boldness of Edward Seaga that brought Jamaican music to the world when he assembled a group of Jamaican performers, including Byron Lee, to perform at the World's Fair in New York in 1962. This was the first mass tour from the island, and the world was introduced to a new genre of music called ska. He was indeed a great nation builder, a luminary who saw how all the different parts, whether it was finance, industry, education, and culture, came together to create a wholesome society. Through institutions like the Heart Trust, NSTA, the Urban Development Corporation, the Development Bank of Jamaica, the Students' Loan Bureau, JAMPRO, the Exim Bank, the Jamaica Cultural Development Commission, the Jamaica Broadcasting Corporation at the time, the Jamaica Stock Exchange, and other institutions too numerous to mention. He transformed not only the socio-economic landscape of Jamaica, but opened a world of possibility on which ensuing generations can build. Mr. Seaga always held the mantra that Jamaica is too rich to be poor. And so he dedicated almost all of his life to seeing the transformation that would bring hope and prosperity to the people. He was Jamaica's longest serving parliamentary representative. Indeed, he still holds the title, having served just over 45 years until his retirement. That was more than half his life. That, ladies and gentlemen, took dedication and sacrifice. This afternoon, where we are standing, is a product of Mr. Seaga's vision as well. Soon, we will be transforming this space, and I'm sure that all our forebears resting here would be proud that this generation has not dropped the baton that they carried so well for so long. Today, we remember a great leader, a statesman, a visionary thinker, an innovator, a man of great intellect, courage, and conviction, an architect and nation builder who paved the way for a new Jamaica to emerge, a Jamaica he always dreamt of. In the words of Psalms 78, verse 72. So he shepherded them according to the integrity of his heart and guided them by the skillfulness of his hands. We give thanks for his life and service. He will be forever in our hearts. May his soul continue to rest in peace.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. And now another musical tribute, this time from Dwight Richards.
By the rivers of Babylon, a strange land. One more time, yeah. For the wicked. Sing it again. Ah. Oh yeah. Ah. Oh mama, mama, mama. Oh, may your soul continue to rest. Oh, mama, mama. So let the word and the meditation be acceptable in Jah sight. Oh, for I. Be acceptable in Jah sight. Oh, for I. Ah. Let me hear you sing. Ah. Good God, good God. I shall not remove. I shall not, oh, I shall not remove. Now just like a tree, oh, planted fire and water, yeah. Oh, mama, oh, yes, I shall not remove. Mr. Seaga say, what him say? One more time. Where we are, and there we will remember when we remember. For the wicked carry us away captivity. We choir from Mouse's song. But how can we sing the Lord's song in our street? Let's go outside now, everybody. Now sing it out loud. Ah, mama, mama, mama. Oh, I'll continue to bless you. Ah.
Dwight Richards, ladies and gentlemen. We have now come to the part of our program. We'll be laying the floral tributes. During the laying of the tributes, Dwight will play. The first floral tribute will be laid by the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister. Senator Sophia Fraser Binns, representing Dr. Peter Phillips, the Leader of the Opposition.
Look all around, nothing but blue skies. Look straight ahead.
Mr. Mitra Seaga, representing the Most Honorable Mrs. Edward Seaga, widow of the Most Honorable Edward Philip George Seaga.
Clearly now, the rain has gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day.
Mr. Christopher Seaga,
It's gonna be
son
bright,
of the Most Honorable Edward Seaga.
bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, 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 sunshiny day. Comes out tomorrow, sun comes out tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow. Bet you boo tomorrow, sun comes out tomorrow, sun comes out tomorrow, 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 tomorrow. Woo. Sun comes out tomorrow, woo. Tomorrow, tomorrow. Gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day.
The Honorable Desmond Mackenzie, Minister of Local Government and Community Development, and Member of Parliament for West Kingston. The Honorable Olivia Grange, Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport. The Honorable Robert Montague, Minister of Transport and Mining and Chairman of the Jamaica Labour Party. The Honorable Lester Michael Henry, Chairman of the Premier League Clubs Association. Councillor Winston Ennis, the Deputy Mayor representing His Worship the Mayor, Senator Councillor Delroy Williams. Mrs. Anne-Marie Spence Heron, President of the Tivoli Gardens Football Club. Mr. Christopher Bovell, the Chairman of the Board, the Edward Seaga Research Institute.
Send down the rain, send down the rain, send down the rain. That's it.
Thank you all very much. And thank you, Dwight Richards. Now another musical tribute. Once again, Camila Isaacs to perform Sweet Beulah Land.
I'm kind of homesick for a country, a place I have never been before. No sad goodbye will there be spoken, and time won't matter anymore. Beulah land, I am longing for you, and someday I'll stand there, my home shall be eternal. Beulah land, sweet Beulah land. I'm looking out across the river to where my faith will end in sight. There's just a few more days to labor, and you and I, we're gonna take, yes, we're gonna take our heavenly flight. Beulah land, I'm longing for you, and someday on thee I'll stand. There my home shall be eternal. Beulah
And so it's done, ladies and gentlemen. One more time, please, for Camellia Isaacs. Thank you, Ms. Isaacs. And we use this opportunity on behalf of the Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport to thank all tribute layers, all performers, Bishop Hera Blair, the members of the Jamaica Defense Force, the team from the Office of the Prime Minister and the Chancery and Protocol Division, the members of staff of the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, members of staff of the Ministry of Health, the members of staff of the National Heritage Trust, members of staff of the National Solid Waste Management Authority, Ms. Shirlene Greenland, the florist, members of the media, members of staff of the National Heritage Heroes Park, and members of staff of the Jamaica Cultural Development Commission and all other supporting teams. We now have a special West Kingston tribute to be led by the Member of Parliament for West Kingston, the Honourable Desmond Mackenzie, the Minister of Local Government and Community Development.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Most Honorable Prime Minister and Mrs. Holness, Senator Fraser Binns, representing the Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Speaker, colleague, Cabinet Ministers, Deputy Mayor, Chris Metre, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I came Prime Minister prepared to speak for 1 hour, but because of the rains, I will try to do it in 3 minutes. Today is a special day, despite the circumstances. It is going to be the first time in over 50 years that the 28th of May is without the Most Honorable Edward Philip George Seaga. It is a difficult moment, and it is when the reality of his passing has now really stepped in, and we can truly say that he's no longer with us in body, but I'm sure in terms of spirit and in terms of love and memories, that this soul of a man who came, saw, and conquered, an individual in his own way, created a kingdom that have given many like myself the opportunity to travel throughout that kingdom. We were planning to have celebrations of the highest order in West Kingston, but there come Mr. or Mistress COVID, wherever species it is, that wiped that out totally. We were planning to, this week, rename the Denham Town Primary and Denham Town Infant in honor of the Most Honorable Edward Seaga. We're going to put that on hold until the time permits us to do so. But I just want to spend the last minute of my talk this afternoon in remembering Mr. Seaga for a man who was loving and forgiving. My mind goes back to the 1962 election. On election day, a lady turned up at the Denham Town police station, and she came to lay a report against Mr. Seaga. Fortunately or unfortunately, Mr. Seaga was in the station at the time because we were having problems in certain polling divisions. And the lady came into the station and she said to the superintendent, who was Superintendent Cephas at the time, she said, I come to lay a statement against Seaga. Him is a wicked man, wicked. And it's only because me is a comrade why him treat me that way. And the superintendent said to her, so what Mr. Seaga do to you? Me stand up in the line, and because him know me now go vote for him open him hand and give me one box cross my face. I want you to lock him up, sir. And the superintendent turned to her and said, so you're sure Mr. Seaga box you? She said, yes, sir. I know him, I can't miss him. And the superintendent said, where him is? She said, I'm not inside here now. But him tall and black, have a big cut across him face. It was the reason. The moral of the story is that Mr. Seaga went over to her and said, I am the man that backs you. She said, no, it's not you. He said, but I am Seaga. And she started to condemn those who told her to come to the station. And he said to her, what is your problem? She said, I want to go and vote. And Mr. Seaga took her and carried her to the polling station. And she came back out and she said, sir, let me tell you, me vote for you. And since that day, she became one of Mr. Seaga's best agent working for Mr. Seaga and the Labour Party. It is a level of compassion and forgiveness. I can tell you about what forgiveness is all about. And I'm not going into it, Prime Minister. But we want to celebrate his life and remember him for the man that he was. Many people don't know that Mr. Seaga was a very emotional person, but never show emotion publicly. And we remember the days when we share the rough times and the good times. Today, I salute him. West Kingston honor him. We mourn his passing, but most importantly, he has left a legacy that can never, ever be destroyed. What good, my father, our brother, and our friend, we love you even in death.
Thank you, Minister Mackenzie. And we have a special performance by the Tivoli Dance Group. Thank you very much, the Tivoli Dance Group. Ladies and gentlemen, may I invite you all to stand for a moment of silence? Thank you all for joining us in the celebration of the life and work of the Most Honorable Edward Philip George Seaga, the 5th Prime Minister of Jamaica. And now, the national anthem. Thank you for coming. Have a good afternoon.